Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or good day wherever you are in the world, and welcome to the next episode of No Dice, No Glory. Sponsored by our jobs that actually pay us money, we're coming to you not at all live from an abandoned arms factory deep under a mountain in West Virginia. We are proud to proffer to you the finest in wargaming coverage. Without any further ado, let's get this show on the road.
Happy Labor Day weekend, everybody. So it's time once again up in Canada for a long weekend tournament we like to call Canadian Nationals. It's, what, Dennis, number 5?
I think it's the 5th one.
And so Dennis, Matt Varnish-Campbell is here, and I'm also sitting across from Tom Lane, making his first trip up to Canada.
That's right. This is the first time I haven't had a wedding in 5 years.
And what do you think about your visit so far?
The Canadians have been great. My games have been fun, even though they've been an unmitigated disaster. And there's been an interesting variety of lists. So I think we've all seen a lot of stuff that we can point out to people. Because I think we're going to record the first half here, and then once we get a chance to see the final results, we'll give you a debrief on that before we skedaddle out of Ottawa.
Yeah, hopefully.
So
let's talk about what everybody brought, I guess.
Well, welcome to No Dice, No Glory, Northern Edition.
Socialism edition.
Yeah, it's the first part where the Colonials take over from the Americans. So sorry, Mitch, but we're heading up this one north of the border. Sorry you can't be here. So 71 points. We're looking at mid-war. Lots of choices. 2 new books that have just recently been released in Enemy of the Gates and Iron Cross. Thank you. So I haven't seen too many lists out of those books, so everything seems to be sticking with like Africa Corps and.
My first 2 games were Enemy of the Gates.
So you played Russians twice?
There are 5 Soviet lists, I believe.
Yeah.
Almost all exclusively infantry, because I think since they haven't released enough of the tanks yet.
No, there's the guy from there's a contingent from Montreal in. There's a guy and his son, and his son apparently his list is pretty good. He's got T-34 Command, T-34s, and then his second compulsory is a bunch of Valentines.
Ooh, okay.
They're cheaper, but still hard. They're hard to get through because of the high armor. I mean, the gun is kind of awful. I didn't play that guy. I played Darko, one of the better local.
I played Darko too, third
Russian
round.
players. And I also played. Well, I played that guy's father. He's also running Soviets.
Okay.
The young guys from Montreal's father.
Oh, cool.
So that's where we had the all French game.
Battle of the French.
Yeah, no, it was really good.
I haven't seen any Iron Cross lists though. I don't know. Like I think everything I've seen has been Africa Corps.
Yeah, so I toyed with one, but I couldn't make it work.
The two
The two Tiger lists.
The 2 Tiger list was a variation on the Africa Corps armored car list that Dennis helped me put together. But the list I wanted to bring was basically just Panzer IIIs and a Tiger.
It was awful.
It was not good.
Disclosure for our listeners, I was privy to the email chain that these two were sending back and forth. And since school starts for me in 3 days, and my students have a summer assignment because I'm a monster, they are now emailing me desperately saying, well, can I handwrite this? Can I do this? And so mixed into all those emails was Matt McKenzie's email that's saying, I think it was on Friday night at like 11:30 when the tournament starts on Saturday morning. He's like, guys, this is time sensitive. Really need to know what list to take.
Well, that's because we had just played, because he was crashing at Aussie Scots, and I had played him. I'd played Aussie Scott the night before, and so that's why he's like, oh god.
Oh, and while I got that email, 2 guys were painting their armies in the hotel room,
and that was all bad. And I know,
I thought it was a disgrace.
And the just as a side note, before I get hammered for not having my list in, by the date or whatever. To be fair, I hadn't registered yet. Therefore, I was not in the tournament. Therefore, I didn't have to submit a list.
So, you had till midnight on Friday night.
Exactly, Friday at midnight.
On a technicality.
Yeah, I didn't make that deadline.
Well, you say the no Iron Cross. My 3rd game was against an Iron Cross list.
Okay, I guess I just...
German. The Germans look like Germans, a lot of them.
Yeah.
But this guy ran Nebs, and I believe he had Martyrs as well. And I think the Iron Cross Martyrs have better armor.
Do they?
Yeah, I was...
What are they normally? Front 2, right? Normally?
Are they normally? I was thinking they were front 1.
Oh, all of them.
Well, I mean, it's paper thin,
Yeah.
but I'm sitting
Yeah.
there hitting him with my M1441s,
Sure.
and he's like, "Oh no, that bounced." I'm like, "What?"
It's like, how does it bounce?
Oh my god, yeah, no, the guy I played with his M1441, his Martyrs, I spent about 5 turns trying to kill them, and I just couldn't.
So we've had some time to peruse the new books, obviously.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of them so far? Even though we're not using lists out of them at the moment, is mid-war going in the right direction?
Yeah, but there's always a caveat. I'm glad that we're fine. Like, there's lots of books out now, because before it was like
Choices.
a year ago there wasn't a very good amount of selection, and people didn't have Finn players. Well, this still can't do anything, but I mean you can just run a Russia player. Is that where we're out of power?
No, that's GoPro.
All right. So I just like that there's a lot of books. The most of the lists are out. Even if it's just a PDF, even if it's just a community-made one, somebody just makes like the Hungarians, the Romanians, or just like accounts as like Romanians. You can play as Germans really. A lot of the gear is the same. Those things, Zerinias look like, or the Hungarians. The Zerinias look like Studs. You should be like, well, these are stats. Yeah, I think it's in a lot better place now.
I think it's a lot easier as a new player to decide from the selections you got now. I feel like if I were getting into the game and I saw there's like 3 books, I'd be like, well, but like I think they're fleshed out now. I think you got a nice like buffet of stuff to pick from, and I feel like a new player would not have a problem jumping in. In terms of the new books, I think I will probably build something from Iron Cross because it gives me an excuse to buy some of the Panzer IIIs. That doesn't do it for me, but the Russian stuff does. I have like German infantry painted for the winter and stuff like that. So I'm excited to use them again. I made them for a Piper list that I like never ran.
Oh yeah.
But they looked pretty, and I had some fun basing. But I always like basing more than painting anyway. So
That's what I enjoy doing. Always makes my models like 10 times better than the actual figures.
Hey
Yeah,
man,
Just the basing.
a crappily painted model looks good with a good base, and a great looking painted model looks ordinary with a crappy base.
You heard it
It's
here,
just one of
folks.
those
Like
things.
4-time best painted winner Dennis Campbell of Nationals events, so he can.
Whatever.
Or is it
Yeah.
5? I don't even know anymore.
It might actually be 5.
Yeah, you can pay attention to that. So you can get some of your crap judged fairly high and win some prizes, or at least a plaque
Well, you gotta play.
and a handshake from Dave.
Yeah.
For myself, mid-war has always been a really good period. Like probably my favorite balance-wise. Now, again, with an introduction of 2 new books and obviously more command cards, there's going to be more choices. Will I ever get to use Pioneers and then take like a whole whack of like support and stuff? Only time will tell.
Well, there is still Ghost Panzers and the Kursk book coming out, so there's those
That's
other
right, yeah.
2 like theater books.
when do we think those are coming out?
I don't know.
I gotta double check that. Like the
We
week
probably
that
won't
is
see them
now.
before Christmas.
Well, there's
I
all
would
this is the French Team Yankee stuff still has to is like on its.
Because we're September now. They're only just rolling out, Enemy and.
I think they changed the release schedule,
Iron
so
Cross.
that stuff's coming out through November. I think.
Okay.
Oh, is it?
I believe I'd have to double check.
So how's the breakdown being done between kind of like Osprey and Battlefront Publishing? What's the deal? Who's looking after what now?
I don't know.
They said that Osprey was going to handle any of the new early war books.
Okay.
And then they'd continue to sell the models. But I think that they mentioned at some point that this early war wasn't quite as popular in the States, at least, and here in Canada. But I like early war. Like I liked playing the early war nationals. I had fun with those armies. I think it's like a clown show. Everything's bouncing off of everybody else. And,
It is
There's
fun.
like toy
Yeah.
tanks and this
I-
weird equipment.
I love early war.
Well, early war was tough too because a lot of their books were still second edition books, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
well,
yes,
How
they
far
were.
back in Burning Empires.
Hopefully looking at what Osprey did with Fate of a Nation and Nam, where it's a big giant thick book, but here's everything you need for it.
Yeah.
Here's
What a-
all of the time periods. It's one book, and then you get, like for me, I've got early war British Desert Rats and early war Africa Corps that I just, the infantry is the same for my mid-war stuff, but I mean the vehicles are different. And so if all I need to buy for early war is the big thick book from Osprey, and then a pack of Brit cards and German cards, and and that's early war. That's cool. Now, the weird lists like, I mean, the French should be in there and everything. Whether or not Battlefront will probably not release the models to every store, but if they make it online available, because one of their stated goals with refining the SKU codes was, so a fully stocked store, doesn't have like all these
like a million SKUs.
A million SKUs of just old early war stuff that just sits there like at Gary's.
At Gary's, yeah.
Which is good when you need it.
Of course, yeah.
But
and
like
now that I'm
like
back up there, at least I can pop in and see if they have it versus the 2-hour drive we used to have to make up there just for one or two models.
But I think if that's the route that they're going with early war, just looking at Nam and Fate of a Nation, like apart from like the editing or spelling errors that are in those books, like it's I like the feel. It's all in one book. I like that.
Yeah, I think it's a smart design choice on their part to make it a standalone game for a new player that's just, I'm into this period. Yeah. I want to buy this. It's not just a supplement. Because all the other version 3 books that you'd get are like requires the rules to play. This doesn't. It's by the book you're done. Yeah. So I like that. That's why what got me into Nam. That book was so great. I bought the book, and then I dropped a ton of cash on all the Pavin guys so I can make the world safe for communism. I think that's my next painting project, but I had a whole butt to get all my stuff finished for this. So but I finally have a Desert Army. I never had Desert Infantry painted, but mission accomplished.
Sweet.
So we think Mid War is going the right direction. Obviously, we're excited about Early War. Late War doesn't really need any fluff, or we really don't need to discuss it because it's kind of in a good place right now, I think. So
I don't think so.
Well, why don't we get back to what we're doing here?
That's right.
I don't want to open a can of worms for Dennis to jump all over Late War and some of what is and what isn't good about it, because we do have games to play eventually. So we're about 40 minutes from kickoff day 2. 3 more games today, and then obviously awards this evening.
I'm miraculously in 3rd place somehow.
Yeah, that's.
I don't know how that happened.
That's great.
I'm also in 3rd place if you're measuring it
from the bottom.
Yeah.
The metric system.
And I'm somewhere in, I don't know, probably the bottom 3rd.
Right.
I think.
How many points you have?
So 2 wins, 1 loss yesterday. My game versus you was a 7.
It was a 6-3.
6-3, so 6 points to that. 1 for my second game for 7, and then I picked up 6 more from Rob's 13.
So you're in the middle.
So I'm somewhere in the middle of the
You're
pack,
in the middle,
which
is
is
a bunch of
pretty much where I wanted to be. After game 2 yesterday was decided by mission and the combination of the board.
Happens sometimes.
I'll just chalk that up as the one of game dump for the weekend, and then the rest of my games have been pretty good without getting into specifics. I'm playing a new list, armored cars with martyrs. So I've got 4 martyrs and 3 of the 5cm Pack 38 anti-tank guns. I'd much rather call them Pack 38s. 5cm. I hate the new titling of all the short barrels, long barrels. It's like just
that's for the
enough.
tanks though. But apparently that's how the Germans called them their own tanks.
Yeah.
It was the type of gun.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Like 5 centimeter or whatever the hell it is in German.
Whatever. But apparently that's how they called their own tank.
Well, it's just making it more difficult for me to learn what each gun does.
And you have the Tiger in support of all your armored cars.
I do. Yeah, it's been doing.
It did nothing
okay
in a game against me. So we played it in round 1.
It's been doing alright the other 2 games, but you're right.
But in my game, it did nothing. Yeah.
It shot a lot.
It did.
But it
he
didn't hit
rolled
anything.
a lot of 1s, man. Yeah, his main gun. Maybe he was nervous. This was his first time out.
The fenders were missing. That's what it was.
Yeah, the fenders were missing.
Yeah. By himself, he's like, "You promised me 2 tigers. I've only got 1 tiger."
One broke down on the way.
Yeah, probably.
None of Reichsmark.
That's exactly what happens. So your 3 games, Tom. So your record. What do you make
0-3. This is the worst showing I've had at a tournament in 11 years.
But it's also your first trip to Canada, your first Canadian Nationals.
Oh no,
we gotta break into it slowly.
I haven't played any jerks. Everybody I've played has been nice. I've had fun games. All the games that I've lost have been amazingly close. Like in your game, it came down to really like just 2 rolls of dice.
Literally,
and then I just finally broke. In the second game,
it's a game that shouldn't have gone to, like, we were looking at the clock, like we were running out of time. That game should have been over in like an hour. Because I was just throwing everything at him.
Yeah,
like,
but
it was just.
So the problem with his list is that he doesn't have artillery.
I don't.
So
you're right, or infantry.
You have to try to shoot me out of a building.
Times.
and you were unlucky enough to have a bunch of tables with plenty of buildings on them in the right spots, and I think that was not to your benefit. But I brought a British motor company with a British Crusader formation, and I hate tanks. I hate them.
There's more Crusaders here at this event than I expected to see.
Yeah, they're too fragile. But there's not that many British players. I only saw 5. And there's 36, 35 players.
There's 34 now.
There's 34 now. Somebody to leave, yeah. Somebody to leave. But no, I think the list just played worse than I thought. But mostly my dice have been real bad. It's just there's no way you can't fight your way out of that. And how have you done?
I've done really well.
Top of the heap.
To the surprise of no one more than me. I'm running, and there's a lot of Italian lists. Let's be fair here. There's a lot of Italian lists this year.
2 of the Italians are in the top 3. You got Chris Johnson and you got you.
Yeah. And
up the top.
Fretz is running
Soviets.
I really miss Jesse Schaefer's Italian list.
I miss Jesse too.
The Tank Eddie
I was
running around
on Facebook with him going, dude, you should be here. And he's like, and I'm like, come on, Lord of the Rings. Come up here, my precious.
Do it.
But no, I'm rocking the 2 Italian tank companies. I'm finding they're very small and fragile. So the only reason I'm running 2 tank formations is because I want to run 4 tank units. Unfortunately, the Italian tank formation only has 3 units in it. So at first I had a formation of all M1441s in HQ, and then my Semoventes were in support. I have a unit of ground mount 88s, another unit of 2 ground mount 88s, and some AB41 scout cars. But then I realized, I was like, wow, okay, but I can actually gain another tank, because that 3rd tank going from 4 to 5 tanks in a platoon is, you pay 3 points for it.
Okay.
So if I get rid of that and make one of them an HQ, the HQ only counts as 2. So with four tank platoons, I split them up into 2 formations, and now my Maventes are a formation asset. So that's been pretty huge.
Okay.
Hilariously, I took the I always hit unit card for my Semavente leader.
How's that worked out for you?
Yeah,
And
which
I want to
never
light it
works.
on fire because it has not done one thing once. I'll be like, oh, cool, I got 2 hits. And he's like, oh, okay. He makes both of his saves on his Stug. I'm like, oh, re-roll those because of this card. He goes, okay. And I'm like, damn it.
No problem.
I just want to. I wish I had taken like the lucky re-roll.
Okay, what'd you do with your heavy guns too? Because you did something different with them. Instead of jamming them together, they're running a separate.
Well, yeah. So the Italians are one of the few lists that can take 2 units of heavy guns. So 2 units of Lancias or 2 units of 88s. So I did. Originally, I only had 2 platoons of 1, but then I figured, I was able to squeeze in 6 points by removing. What did I remove? One of the AB41s and I think 1 M14 was able to get me the extra 6 points to get a 3rd 88 on the board. That's been paying off dividends. Just the platoon of 2 though, dying to like 1 mortar shot.
Ooh,
and then
that's rough.
and then they're testing.
A
And
mortar, really?
Well, yeah, our artillery, mortar's 4+ firepower now.
Yeah.
So it's like, I fail my save. Oh, geez.
Yeah.
And he makes it, and then I lose 1 gun. It's a 2-gun platoon.
Yeah.
And I'm testing, and of course, even though they're fearless, I roll a 1, guarantee, every single time.
Well, the Italian tanks are not. I mean, they're fragile in terms of like they're weak armor.
They're
But
infantry killers.
yeah, but they 6 machine gun shots per tank.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane.
Even if you assault them from the back.
Yep,
it's still
it
6.
don't matter. And like I did test games with Chris Johnson, who's playing he's playing Italian tanks.
Very similar. Yeah.
But I couldn't beat him in several tries because there's too many tanks, and I can't put out enough shots. So I can't pass the 4-up firepower to save my life. And I'm a 3 to hit or a 4 to hit, and that 4 to hit is huge. I think
It is.
It really makes that list viable.
Yeah,
But
if
they
it
were
wasn't
3
for that,
if it wasn't for that,
they'd be doomed.
you'd be toast.
And even though the 4-up is like, it's a 50% chance, it's
It's a big difference.
yeah.
If you're at
75%
range,
of the time it doesn't work.
I like
It's
being at range because of the heat rounds.
The heat round.
They're
That's-
like,
that-
oh,
yeah,
I
I'm
get the
getting-
extra
yeah.
pip of armor. I was like, no.
No, that's right. So I've been hit by a few of those. I was hit by a few of those yesterday too, and it's like you're looking for just that 1 extra because obviously playing armored cars,
You need every-
yeah,
Yeah.
even the 8 rads.
Yeah,
you know what I
right.
mean? And then at the end of our game, as some of you will see the video that Dennis took.
Oh yeah, I'll be.
I'm going into like, well, no, Tom, 5 + 5 is 10. Now I'm good, right? Because of my dice roll. And Tom's like, you're a 3 in the front. I'm like, I'm still getting used to reading the new cards. So it's mixing up AT and the chart over on the side for the way the armor's laid out and that, and just it's a little confusing.
Well, my favorite part of our game was Universal Carriers trying to machine gun your headquarters to the side. So your scout car, we kept doing a little dance, yin yang around each other for side shots on each other. Yeah.
And because it's such a long model too, you could fit all 3 of the carriers in side by side and get them all in on the side.
Like a hot dog getting dressing put on top of it,
Machine gun dressing.
Machine gun dressing.
In a cornfield, all by themselves, just doing little circles.
Any rules burn you guys yesterday at all? Tom, start with you, I guess.
No.
Maybe difference between V3, V4.
No,
or you've kind of dumped that by now. Are you pretty much into the new book as much as you need to be?
I think one of the problems I wind up having is there are a lot of things that version 3 rules clarify about version 4 rules, and there will be occasionally times where that creeps in. So I'm trying to think of a good example of that. I think the big one that annoys a lot of people, and for this one, is the assaulting in the buildings. So they've had to make rulings about this, right?
That annoys people.
That annoys people.
Explain why.
So tanks can't assault buildings because it's impassable terrain. And it used to be, in version 3, that you could pass a skill check for a fully armored vehicle to just crash into the building. And it's generally a dicey proposition that you don't want to do anyway, but you had the option to do it, right? In this one, you need infantry. But the other weird rule, I don't know where this is from. I don't know if it's a Phil thing or an FAQ. I'd have to read. But the infantry can assault out of the building, but if a tank's up against the window, right? And the infantry is right next to them. The infantry is allowed to attack the tank, but they don't get bulletproof cover. They do get concealment, I believe.
But they also get sneaking up on tanks, which is huge.
They would get sneaking up on tanks, yeah.
Well, that's if they started in the building.
If they started in the building.
Didn't move, didn't shoot.
So there was at least one. So my third game was against Darko's Soviet infantry, and
in that crazy city building.
In a giant Stalingrad city table that, I love the buildings.
Did you play it? Table 20 or whatever it is?
Yeah.
All the white buildings? You played on that?
Played on that against the Soviet infantry.
There will be pictures of that in some of the articles we're going to be posting, so stay tuned for those.
The last rule I'll mention, and I'll let you guys do the roundtable on that, would be, I didn't think it would be an issue, but, Darko was right. I checked the rules. There really isn't a penalty for being out of command. So if you have
for assaults,
zero penalty
for it.
Well, you have a +1 penalty for shooting, and if you have too few guys near the commander, then you could potentially test. But since he took his platoons and he managed to stretch them out across the city, so you had this 15-stand platoon that's basically occupying 7 different buildings. Mm-hmm. And he's able to do that because I can't dig out the guys I would need to force a test.
He didn't deploy them like that, right? He had to move them. He can't deploy like that.
Correct. So he deployed them in command, and then he gradually spread them out. And it became a nightmare trying to hunt down all these Soviet teams in the buildings as I'm in my tiny little motor platoons. And I still came within one dice roll of winning that game because I assaulted, and he needed 1 good round of defensive fire. He needed 8 dice, and he needed 4s or whatever. And he got 7 hits on 8 dice. And then the T-34s came in and murdered me. But fighting Soviet infantry in a city is generally a losing proposition, so I didn't expect to be in any position to win any game. But because he can move stuff around a lot, or any player can, those big Soviet blobs, I don't think it'll be an issue on an open table. But on the urban tables without the Stalingrad rules, it might get it gets confusing trying to keep track of where the different stands are and who's part of what platoon.
Well, especially if they don't have to, keep their obviously within 6 or within 8 of their unit leader. Just kind of get the.
Yeah, I think there might be the thing where, let's say that I have the command team way over here, and I have the other guy who's out of command. If he can't just keep moving out of command. If you move, you have to move towards the commander.
No. You can move away from. You just can't dash, and you can only tactical move. And if you shoot, it's +1 to hit.
Even better.
You can walk. You can leave the commander way in the back. So a commissar, for example, could sit in the back, and the whole rest of the platoon can just walk around and occupy buildings and be a pain in the ass.
Well,
you're right. There's little isolated pockets, and then you can break the whole platoon by killing the commander, because then the commander can't jump. But
I mean, I haven't played as many TUS. You guys have played TUS games, and I really haven't had anybody.
Not against. I didn't play a single test game of Iron Cross or Enemy Gates.
Yeah,
just
not
because
yet.
the local player
Sure.
refused to play version 4 with the head Soviets.
It's also hard to. Dennis and I used to play like test games, more so than pretty.
But you're
pretty
2
much
hours away
anybody
now.
now.
because
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
hosting.
It's
And
a
that's
little
just
bit of a difference in my living in a different area now. But yeah, I for me, well, I mean, still fairly new to version 4, so there's a few things. Same thing, like bit in the ass by the not being able to assault the buildings. Obviously, that's huge.
I bit a guy.
I was definitely not thinking about that when I did list construction. 'Cause, I mean, I would have potentially bought maybe just a crappy ass Grenadier platoon or something.
Yeah. Well, it's been a while for you, because when we were playing, like we kept
Sure.
sort of going through rules.
Oh yeah.
Just to
No,
make
for
sure.
And I always always appreciate games like against yourself or like Chris Fretzer against Dennis, and it's like it's easier for me. I cannot, and I've even if we went back and played version 3, even though I've got hundreds of games under my belt, I still forget it a shit ton.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't learn that way. I have to learn by playing.
You got to do it. Most people are that way.
So just rinse and repeat. Which is why my first 2 or 3 lists of Flames of War ever were always just like tank lists, and then introduce the artillery, and then finally introduce the infantry, because the assaulting was just too confusing.
There's
and
a lot of
kind
little
of
rules with assaults.
there's a lot of fluff there.
Back to the rules thing, I unfortunately burned a guy. So, and this is where it comes to the English rule book, then an English, the more missions pack with the new victory conditions.
Yes.
And a French player.
Oh, okay.
So at their club or area or whatever, they use the new mission rules, but the way it's read, how if you start your turn
Is there
within
is there a
4 inches-
translation for them?
No, there
There's
isn't.
not.
Of
I
course,
didn't
of course.
think
And so,
Right.
and this is what cost him the game, unfortunately, is because as he's reading it,
The big change, either at the beginning of or at the end of.
well, if you're within 4 inches, it's a
Right.
new victory condition.
start.
If you start your turn as the attacker within 4 inches of an objective, and at the end of your turn, you clear off any of the enemy, you win the game.
Right.
Then.
That's right.
And I got Mark like that. He thought he had another turn, and
Sure.
I'm like, no, it's done.
He thought he could feed the objective.
Right, and then I'm going through the reading of it, and then I'm just realizing it's just one of those cases where it should be explicitly clear exactly this, or this in an update or in a lessons from the front or a new it has to be 100% clear, because even just a reading of English, in New Zealand or in England or Australia or
Wherever.
and then there's people in Europe. They've got to try to read English as well. They might be popping it into Google Translate, and they're playing it wrong, not through any fault of their own. So unfortunately, this guy, he was probably going to lose the game anyways, but he would have gotten a lot more. I wouldn't have gotten an 8-1.
If it was in bullet points, basically. Present it to him in bullet points rather than try to explain it in a small paragraph.
Well,
That
yeah,
kind
and
of
it was just the way the sentence is
Yeah.
written. That's literally it.
Mhm.
And he was reading it, and he's like,
It's too much information.
he goes, well, yeah, at the beginning of your turn, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, if at the beginning of the turn it is, and...
Yeah, because it's
it
like
was-
comma
yeah.
and
So I felt super bad, but that's how I got my 8-1,
That's it.
because he expected to have another turn to feed more units in there, just like version 3. And he was, as soon as his reserves were going to come on, they were going to murder my face, because it's only because he didn't get his reserves the previous turn. I'm like, it's now or never,
Yeah.
and I just jumped at him.
And all
just
these,
assaulted everything.
all 3 missions yesterday so far, we've played...
We haven't played a free.
what did we play?
we haven't
so,
played a
Dust Up, Hasty Attack, and...
no fair fights. No fair fights
Yeah.
yet. So we're gonna we might get a pile of them today. 'Cause he's choosing at random.
We might get one, and right now the top 2 players might get free for all and both draw.
Boom.
You never know.
Okay.
The internet explodes.
Well, we'll see you for part 2
Yeah.
after
All right,
after the day's over.
All right,
Good
best
luck
of
in your
luck,
games.
gentlemen.
And,
Thanks, Canadians.
See you at lunch break.
All right, bye.
All right, guys.
And we're back, albeit it's not right away, because we left our minor dungeon in the wilds of the Canadian hotel we were at. And I'm back in Connecticut, but you guys are still up there in the beautiful north. So
I'm still
Go ahead.
I'm still like maybe a half a mile away from the hotel.
That's right. You said you could see it from where you work, right?
I'm looking at it right now. Actually, I'm looking down the street and I'm looking at it. Right
it's funny, on the way back, I got like hassled by the the border patrol. So the Canadian border patrol was like really happy to see me, right? They were like so what are you doing? And we're like, oh, we're playing like a miniature war game. And he's like, really? Like you can tell he was tempted to search the car because he wanted to look through the armies.
Out of the car, please, sir.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
no.
but the U.S. guy was like not happy to be working on Labor Day, clearly. And I forgot that I can't use my Connecticut license as a way to get across, so I had to like dig through the back and get my ID out, and then I realized that there was bottles of whiskey in the back of the car, so I had to try to keep that under a sock so that he didn't think I was trying to smuggle whiskey out of the country.
Pull the old Tic Tac officer from Dumb and Dumber. Anyways, the reason why we didn't do the podcast after the games is because Matt, I believe, was playing till the very, 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 very bitter end.
Yeah,
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I have the fastest list I've ever played, and I was playing the most aggressive I've ever played. Yet the game still went to time.
Weren't you playing on that like? There was one of the urban boards, right, with the bigger buildings.
City table.
This...
Yeah. So, so hopefully by the time you hear this, the article will be up, and you'll be able to see some of the pictures of.
Well, my picture's already up.
Table. Yeah, the I guess the city board is in the picture dump that Dennis did. But I'll have a quick blurb on it and kind of how it went with my game against I want to say Jason, I think, from Massachusetts, and yeah, we actually had a pretty good time on that board, even though we were both playing armored lists.
Well, that's why you had a good time on it.
So it was like a lot of back alley knife fights and stuff going on. It was kind of fun. Not gonna lie. But yeah.
So how did your second day go for everybody, Tom?
The first day was a record for me. It was the worst performance I've had in any major tournaments in 7 years. I've never wound up in that bad a spot. But the second day, I made up for it with some slightly better dice. I won all 3 games. But I learned that you're going to bleed platoons because the Crusaders die because the 5-up, last stand check started to matter. I realized that I recklessly put stuff out in the 4th game because I didn't realize that I didn't expect to win, so I just kept throwing stuff at the front line, and he blew up a couple things, and I was like, "Oh, right, you played for points, not just to win the game." So I realized that.
I've got the scoreboard up right now, and Tom's talking about his 3-1-1 as far as points are concerned.
Yes.
So by the end of day 1, you had 5 points.
I had 5 points.
Yet in your last 3 games in day 2, you pretty much did 5 times as many to get to 24 total.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good day 2.
Yeah. I would say that the people I drove up with were far more successful than I was, and I feel like if if you wanted to talk strategy with somebody who knows what they're doing, we should have gotten Chris Johnson on here because Chris Johnson did win. And I know we don't need to stroke his ego any more than we do, which is why I'm going to continue to troll him with that stupid video we kept playing for him all weekend. But I think he's going to help write some of the article I'm going to put together because I took a lot of pictures. I basically took pictures of all 6 games, and I'll try to give a blow-by-blow of what went on. I made notes for myself. I'm looking at them now as I flip through my little notepad. Because with 6 games, you tend to forget stuff, right? So, but I have everybody's name, and I'm gonna be all professional about it. But I didn't really have I was happy to not have a bad opponent. My vote for favorite was Matt McKenzie. It was my favorite game.
Nice.
So
I think when I saw them tallying everything, I think you must be the only hash mark beside my name on the envelope when they were writing stuff down.
Well, I had a lot of fun in that game. It was a good game.
It was fun. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. You helped me through a couple of things. I mean, it was certainly easier to go against you than it was, battling Bob McBride. who felt my pain when I was trying to, kill his infantry that was in buildings, because I think we already talked about that in part 1 a bit. It was
Yeah.
just such a disdain to lose 8-1. I hate that. I don't know if you guys are like this, but when I look at the scoreboard, like I like the scoreboard watch. So when I see guys that get like 8 points in the new scoring, or even like 7 on the old one or whatever it was, I get irritated that their opponent couldn't get like just steal a point from them.
Well, now it's 2 platoons.
It's 2
Yeah.
platoons.
You got to get 2.
Yeah, so it's like, man,
And now, like, they could have been just that one tank that just hung out and kept making its motivations.
back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about how was your second game on day 2?
So my first game on day 1 was against. Let's check all my notes. I wrapped up on day 1 with that hugely demoralizing Soviet infantry fight on the Stalingrad table with all the buildings.
Oh, yeah.
The buildings are awesome, by the way. Those are Andrew Bucknon's buildings, and I'm gonna post some pictures of it and make sure he gets credit for designing some awesome apartment buildings. He's totally right about them being more Team Yankee-ish, but
Sure.
I can beat him up. I'm just gonna like hit him with a brick and turn him into
bought a
ruins.
couple, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I bought like a set of 4
Oh, nice.
because like they look great. Then they're customizable. There's multiple stories. They look like Sarissa Precision ones. They look like that because they're very well put together. But I played him in the first game, and I beat him by basically throwing everything I had at one flank in fighting withdrawal. I actually won as the attacker in fighting withdrawal. I feel like it got easier when they redesigned the mission. Am I wrong? I don't know how you guys played that.
Yeah.
Because he has to withdraw more stuff because there's more platoons on the table. So he had to keep pulling stuff, and I finally managed to punch through. Second game was against Zhu. So he had his German DAC infantry. I think he's like a newer player because his stuff wasn't fully painted.
He is a newer player, yeah.
But he played pretty well. He knew the rules. But to give you an idea of the kind of dice that were thrown against me this weekend, so he had martyrs in a wood. I had grants that were far away, gone to ground, sitting in their own set of woods. At a range of 30 inches, he rolled his 6 dice, needing 7s, because they're careful, 4+ to hit, gone to ground, concealed, at range. He proceeded to roll 4 6s,
Wow.
and then of those 4 6s, he proceeded to roll 2 5s. And then he blew up both grants. Of course he did. So I paid him back with some other die rolls, and I did eventually win because he didn't move his tanks up in a previous turn to be within 4 to start. So I managed to move up, assault with Crusaders assaulted 3 games, and they won their assaults miraculously. But I assaulted his infantry off the objective and wiped out stuff on the objective, and he had nothing that could get anywhere near it, which means that as he started his turn, he would have to move to the objective, and then he would end, and then I would start my turn within 4, and I would win. So like I had to kind of walk him through that a couple times because it's one of those things where I feel like I have a bad habit of I'm a teacher, so I get teachery, and I feel like I probably annoy people. With like, oh, this is how that works, this is how that works, this is how that works. And so I'm kind of seeing several steps ahead, and I'm like, oh, this is probably what's going to happen. So I don't know if it annoyed the hell out of you, Matt, but I guess you were rusty with the rules, so we kind of went over them together. And but yeah, I feel like I probably bugged the hell out of at least 1 or 2 opponents because I was like, I
definitely used day 1 as like a shakedown day. It was just kind of, brushing the dust off the models after a move, and just like so much other stuff going on with like, adjusting to a new job and new place of employment. And I actually have a little bit more time now, so my painting area and stuff downstairs is going to be set up soon. So I'll actually be working on a lot more flame stuff shortly, which would be nice to get back into painting and honestly back into playing, because Dennis is nice enough because he doesn't really have a setup for gaming at his place, so he'll make the drive hour and a half, 2 hours to my place to play games, which is cool.
Will you have you'll have a slumber party up there?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no room at the Ivory Tower here.
So I guess you guys want to do your first and second games, or I'll give you my last one.
Go ahead.
So
mine's pretty fast.
So yeah, but you did really well. So
Yeah.
they're more interested in how you turned out than the dregs of humanity working his way up to tied for 18th.
On my way to a top, Dennis, on my way to a top 3, I'll remember them being short games.
They were all short.
That's about it. Yeah.
They were all
They
short.
tried, but I ended up victorious.
I did end up victorious. So last game was against Jason Davis, who's a guy from Boston. I've seen him before, but I've never played him. And it was Crusaders on Crusaders. So it was a win-win because no matter what happens, a Crusader list was going to win. It was on a huge open desert board. I hung back instead of playing aggressive, and I got lucky on a whole bunch of shots. But me having infantry and him not having it meant that eventually my infantry was able to move up, assault the guys that were bailed out, police them up, and murder his guns, and I got him. But I lost a ton of platoons in the process. So my games total for the third day were 7-2, 6-3, 6-3. Because in both cases I lost so many platoons that it really didn't matter.
Yeah.
But the new victory stuff makes it worthwhile. It's not just like, oh, it's a 4-3. The 6 makes a difference. So the win really separates, and that and the new victory conditions make it so that I don't recall a lot of games that played to a draw if I'm looking at the overall field and the results. And Dennis will speak more to this when he talks about, like, we talk about the lists people took and what we saw, and Matt can as well. But I don't know, without seeing the full results yet, where the highest placed British player was, because they did bad. The British list got smacked. I think
scoreboard, but I don't have who
the nationalities. Yeah. I
know a couple of them. I'll look right now while we're chatting.
Sure. I think I submarined my way up to the middle, but it was a lot of British players down there at the bottom. I think some of it might have to do with the points. I think at 71, it's a lower points total, and it really plays to the Italian strengths because those tanks are good, man. It's hard to kill them all. And
yeah, but they stick around, which is why, because normally, like, if we talk about my list and Chris's list, which were fairly similar, they can bleed victory points, but usually, depending on the mission, like if you can get a good a flank going, you can bum rush, and there's too many tanks to kill. And so that's how I was able to win most of my games with that. I'm looking here. I want to say the highest British player was, I think it was Andrew Buchan, actually. I'm looking at the other ones that I know are British. No, Rob Kelly with his Canadians.
Oh, okay.
Got 24 points.
24 points, yeah.
Yeah, Bob McBride took Germans. Scott McKeanton. Darko took Russians. Yeah. I will go on a limb and say that Rob Kelly with his Canadians was the highest scoring British player. I could be wrong.
He was tied with me because I had 24 points too in the end.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and 24, yeah.
So after the drubbing I received,
Dan Shawkat also took them, but he finished a little bit lower, and Andrew Buchan finished with 23 points. I don't know who this Christian Auclair was, and he might have had that. He might have been that other Crusader list, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I didn't play him.
No, I'm not sure. I don't know. Anyway, so Dennis, tell us about your games. Tell us how it went.
Pretty good. I only lost to Chris Johnson, who would end up winning, as we discussed.
I only lost to the guy who won first.
No, and here's what's ridiculous is, like, because him and I had been chatting on, DMing and Facebook, just going over lists like the week before, and he was like, "Oh, maybe you should bring this," and I'm like, "I think I'll bring that instead." And our list turned out to be fairly similar, but the thing is, it's a whole bunch of little tanks. So you really need for anti-tank, you really need either Lancias or those 80 millimeter or the 88s like I had. I was the only person I saw that had Italian 88s. Everybody
They're
else had
amazing.
Lancias.
They're amazing because it's one gun in each. You know what I mean? So it's just.
Well, it can be, yeah. No, that's exactly right. In terms of how the thing was in our game though, I'd lined up and I was the aggressor, so I moved my guys up to hedges and took shots while he was concealed on the ground. And my dice, all the good luck I had all the tournament, all emptied that game. I had no luck whatsoever, 0. Like, if I had 12 shots hitting dudes on 4s, I'd hit once, and then I would fail the firepower, like stuff like that. And he just kept using. He had Luigi Pascucci, so his guys were really, really good. He kept his HQ guys near most of his tanks. I mean, like I did. We each had 2 tank formations, so we had 2 HQs, so you got all your bases covered. So you're re-rolling all those motivation tests. But yeah, like that's the only game I lost. In terms of my other games, there was one where the fighting withdrawal. No, Bridgehead, where the guy is deploying in a box. I played on a map where even though there's just a 4-inch gap for me to spearhead all the way up a flank, there's a nice wall right there. So I had, I spearheaded my AB-41s on his flank and then just deployed everything over there. And yet he just couldn't stop me in time for me to take the objective on one game. Yeah, I mean, the games went really, really well. I don't want to bore anybody with the details, but it was definitely the best nationals level tournament I've ever done, which is good. But I'm sick of Italians and I want to retire them, and I'll probably, for the time being, and I'll probably play Brits for early war next year. Contra camo scheme. Excellent.
Oh, Brits for early war.
I found a good Contra camo scheme. I used some GW paints. I think you saw the Matildas I made. They turned out really cute.
Yeah,
they're so cute. Matildas.
Cute Italians, nice.
Yeah.
I've convinced Aussie Scott, to do Australians for early war.
That guy,
since they had the captured Italians.
So I love that guy. Like, if he listens to this, he's probably going to be like laughing to himself. But I voted for him for best painted. And yeah, he's funny. He's super nice. He's got a great sense of humor. And I wish I had a chance to play him, but I did so bad that there was no chance that they were going to pair me with him.
He did super well considering he didn't get to play. He started playing version 4 about a month ago because he was out of country until then. So,
yeah, he actually, I think one of my favorite moments was one of the guys I came up with, Tim Morrissey, was trolling him with that sniper. Like killing those guns. So, like, newsflash to people, snipers are actually not that bad mid-war version 4. Because the Soviets, Germans can take them.
Well, Tim was running Walter Koenig, though.
He was. But Vasily is not bad either. I think Chris Johnson's thinking about trying him out. But he's also talking about like bringing 5 of those not force limited T-34 factory cards, which is nonsense. Where you roll like 5 dice every time you roll for reserves, and any 5 or 6 is just a magical T-34 appears. We'll see how that goes, because I think he's going to Masters. So really curious to see what kind of list he brings, because it is mid-war for Masters, I believe. But we'll see.
I have no idea. I don't follow Masters.
I don't know.
He had so much success with this list here. How he wouldn't take the same one is beyond me.
I don't know. Well, he loves Soviets, and he's got a ton of Soviets that are already painted. I think he needed a handful of the mid-war specific tanks that he didn't have, because he doesn't have those KVs. And he's short a couple tanks for each of the stuff that he wanted to try out. But
yeah, who needs it? He was on his first day. He was 1 point shy of a perfect, 3 perfect games.
I took a point off of him.
So
did PBR Preston.
Yeah, so did Preston. Preston did.
Yeah, Preston got his point day 2? He played him?
No, it was day one. I'm making either business cards or a T-shirt that has that picture of him holding the Pabst Blue Ribbon boxes, and it's just going to say, "This man took a point off Chris Johnson."
There you go.
I'm just super proud to have gotten him to try like different brews while he was up here.
Oh yeah, no, he expanded his palette. Preston was, I think, so. Preston has kept making plans to come, and then other things have gotten in the way. I'm really glad he got a chance to go. This was the most fun I've ever had at a tournament because everybody had a good time. It was really fun.
Well, it's because Canadians are pretty chill.
Canadians are pretty chill.
That's why I'm looking forward to November.
Oh, down in Fallen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really bummed I'm going to miss you guys for that, but
oh well, Cold War's February.
I got to host that Model UN tournament. Got to get that cash so the kids can pay for their New York City trip.
So how do we want to wrap up Canadian Nationals really in terms of lists, games? Like my games went well. My list was good. We discussed Chris's list. Tom, Matt, your games?
Games day one. Did we do a wrap on game one? Or
yeah, we did day one already. Yeah.
Yep.
So, day two came away with a few more points. I got two more wins. The one loss I did get, I'm not gonna really talk about too much because I'm still pretty irritated at how that went down.
I think you should talk about it. Actually, it's important.
Well, I'll speak for you
I think Tom was more pissed off.
Yeah,
I was mad, man.
Than I was, and I think all this stems from actually just a bit of history there, Tom, and for all the listeners out there who give a crap. Dennis knows this. So our first trip down to Historicon, like 14-hour drive. I'm totally psyched. Just getting the Flames of War bug. Getting into my first nationals. Dennis had already been there once before. And then I get paired up for my very first game, U.S. Nationals, and I get a no-show. So I get a bye. My very first game, after driving down all that way, there literally was not another opponent that didn't get paired up. So I couldn't play against anybody.
Well, that was a legit bye, though. That's different.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
It was horrible. So this past weekend, something else transpired. So times for games were pretty straightforward. It was day two, so there was no big brief or anything in the beginning. Louis was on time. Ran a really good tournament actually.
He did.
It's very well run. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And we had two players that were late.
3.
So
they all came in the same car. They all live in Ottawa. I don't mind calling them out by name.
Sure.
They should know better.
Yeah.
So these guys roll in 25 minutes late and are from here, and we're outside having a smoke.
Yeah.
And because of that, Matt ended up timing out.
Yeah, well, I had already been repaired with somebody else, and then we started to kind of set up and say, okay, we're going to play. So Louis was gonna pull aside because he was playing as a third man.
And that was the right thing to do.
Right, exactly, makes sense. So we were paired up. Scott and I both would have ended up just playing each other. So what was decided? Louis like, okay, just you both maxed out, and Scott and I were like, okay, we're not playing each other because this is dumb. So we were just going to go off the corner and just have like a for fun game or whatever, just to pass the 2 hours rather than just walk around or whatnot.
Yeah.
And then they showed up, and then they decided to roll the games anyway. So by the time we had deployed and the first dice was rolled, I was already 35 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
So I had lost 35 minutes of actual like game time. So I really
and it was a mission to be, and it has to be said, it was a mission where it had to go to time 9. No, it had to go to turn 9 or else.
That's right. Yeah. So I ended up timing out, and what did I get that game? Ooh, 2 points. Yeah. So I was not happy.
I think like it's just like when I set up my classroom and I started school this week, right? There's very few things that irritate me, and this is just like the teacher, coming out. And I'll tell the kids, like, there's a lot of things you can do. You could saran wrap my car, and I'll be like, well done.
Well,
okay. You could egg it. You could make memes of me and cut my face out and put it on a pickle. That happened today. But but don't lie to me. But more importantly, don't waste my time. Okay. Because I make every effort not to waste yours. I don't give you busy work. I don't do this. And it's just a bummer because, people came to play, and there might be a completely legitimate reason for them to have been like a little late, but a little late isn't 25 minutes. And if you're in the host city, you have kind of an obligation to, to be there on time. It's just common courtesy. So that stinks. But I was angrier for you than I think you were.
They smelled the cigarettes when they came in, and I was giving
guys.
Because I know who they are.
Yeah.
Young university age kids.
was not. I was not impressed.
So, anyways, after that game, since you timed out and couldn't physically win because you couldn't get to turn 9. Awesome.
Let's see. So
After
game 2 was.
It looks like you got a 6-3 win according to the board.
I think that was my game against Jason on the city board. It was day 2.
Mm.
Yeah, no, it was. It was the big city board. That was a fun game for the both of us, and that really could have gone either way. Again, having a tiger on my list really was just more of a deniability, or or made certain areas of the board not as attractive as others. Now, I will say with the movement, and Jay and I talked about this after, of the Crusaders and stuff like that, some of the other things that he had in his list, he really should have just kind of shot through the city streets and used them as blocking walls versus trying to hold me off. That game I did win. Unfortunately, was kind of one of those same situations as Tom, where he had his Crusaders in the back guarding the objective with only one of them within 4 inches. So the Tiger had already been there a previous turn. So once I killed the Crusader the following turn, I ended up winning the game.
Yeah,
it's
During
tricky.
his movement step, he never moved anybody in, so I didn't even take my turn. I just walked over and I said, "Listen, like I don't like to win, like that. I tend to be as helpful to other people that don't have as much maybe experience as I do, which doesn't happen that often actually."
Yeah, Bob lost that way, Bob McBride, because having
right.
not played, he was steaming because he could have easily put more than one model to defend.
So I talked about that with Bob, and he's like, "Yeah, I lost on a technicality." So we talked about it.
Yeah,
and then I'm like, Bob, that's why the pamphlets, that's why the whole new rule set and everything and the lessons and everything's printed for everybody. There's a photocopied copy for everyone on every table with all the missions. And
to be fair,
he's like, you know what's funny about that, Matt? He's like, I'm the one that made all the cups.
he printed them off.
You have no excuse.
Oh, that poor dude.
No excuse.
I have another story of that. Like 2 of my victories were from that, but if it's difficult to suss it out and English is your mother tongue, imagine what it's like for the crew from Montreal who are French first. And there's no French Flames of War book. There's no French Flames of War, like more lessons from the front. So they're reading that and they had no idea. So when I played Mark Vio, him and his son, they actually played against each other, father and son game on one of them. But I played his father. And he was sure that I didn't win right away. I'm like, sorry, man, I pushed your 3 guys off by assaulting them with M14s, and I win the game now. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, sorry, man. And then he was shocked, and I was like, I went to I was like, well, let's go ask the guy who's won this 2 times already. And he's like, yeah, we went to Chris Johnson real quick, and he's like, yeah, I felt super bad, but like all those Montreal guys had no idea. And that's because they're French first, so their reading of that badly worded sentence in those victory packs, it isn't clear. It really isn't clear. I don't want to rant too much about it, but even if you're writing it in English and you think everybody's gets it, write it more clear. That's all I can say about that, because it cost a lot of people games in this tournament, a lot.
I think it, on balance, the way that we've read the rule, it's a good rule. Like it was a smart move on the Potter Battlefront to prevent people from defeating an objective. The game's played a time, as evidenced by the fact that I think we could list of the games that were played. There's just very few that timed out. There's a handful. That was one of them. But
do you think changing it to as far as the points, like, do you think changing it to that 1 platoon gets you a point? Do you think that would rebalance the way, the direction they went with the new conditions, or would that kind of take it back to where it used to be before?
What do you mean? Where the 1 platoon doesn't count as a victory point?
Right. Yeah, like it's a freebie, like it used to be when it was 9 platoons or more.
Yeah, you needed to hit a certain level.
I think with a lot of armies, like for example, the British can now field like probably 3,000 points worth of Honey Stewarts and old money in an 80-point game now. So that's a lot of platoons, and so giving one freebie is fine. It's a little bit more difficult for certain armies or versus certain armies. Like
Mhm.
I would say actually, Matt, yours, and I did want to ask, and I never asked, was because you took the Aufklärung scout cars with a tiger. How did the tiger do? Did it? I don't want to say did it pull its weight, but yeah, did it pull its weight in your games?
Okay.
Like,
Was it
how did
was it
do?
worth it?
Because I think you were the only tiger there,
I didn't. Yeah, I don't think I saw any other big cats.
and I
hanging
think I
out
only
there.
saw one KV1. I was expecting a ton.
I expected a ton because you also expected not that many people to have air, and I think I saw more airplanes than I expected to see.
Me too. Yeah.
I saw quite a few. I played
Yeah,
against 3 of them.
Quite a few people had air,
Wow.
so that was a bit of a shocker. But let's see. So 29 points. What do you get for 29 points? Well, obviously the big gun. The big loss obviously is maybe the tiger skills. There's no like free dice roll to get like extra shots or
Well, it's another 8 points to get it.
yeah.
Like you can for a
Right.
card, but it's ludicrous.
Yes,
yeah.
that's right. It would definitely not make it. It would definitely not make it worth it. I lost a tiger. He died. Out of 6 games, I think he died twice. So
Yeah, Bob's Martyrs. I watched that one.
yeah, Bob McBride got me with Martyrs, and a failed or really crappy armor save. And then my second game against Rob Kelly, he popped it with a 25-pounder of all things. He hit it. I rolled a 1, and then he passed his firepower with a 5, and that was it.
But
It was
that would bail it, wouldn't it? That just bails it?
No.
Yes, AT3.
Yeah, it's up.
No.
so.
Like it's
You sure?
18-9 in direct fire, and it hit your side armor, which is what?
No.
Bombardment.
We're talking bombardment.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
an
in the
AT3.
bombardment? It's 18-3
Yeah,
in the bombardment. So even if you rolled a 1, you bailed them.
I don't think that's right.
I'm a British player, my friends.
I might have made a mistake.
British flair.
But that doesn't play into it because I will say so. The thing that kind of so day 2, I had already played Rob Kelly day 1. So day 2, when we had the same amount of points, I totally understand the computer's going to pair you up or whatever it does to to do the matchmaking. I will say this: if you're not in the top friggin' 5, right? If you're not in the top 5 and whether you get an 8 or a friggin' 0, you should not be paired up with the same person twice at a nationals event.
I would agree. Yeah.
Chris Fretz and Chris Johnson played twice, but
Right.
that's because at the very end, it's like those are the top 2.
And that's what you got to do. I've seen that before at events as well, but you should not be playing against this. And neither Rob or I wanted to play against each other again. It was just kind of ludicrous. Now that
He was
game,
having issues. The thing is, he was having issues with the software. So
well, issues with
I
software
feel you.
issues with the software were on day 1.
Or day
because
1.
Words were entered a little bit incorrectly, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't think
I'm just saying.
matchmaking, but yeah, he could have found a way to for somebody else to play. There was each like I think Bob McBride, Kelly, myself, and one other person was like in the 20 or 21 point. I think Rob and I had 21 points, and then Bob McBride at the time had 20, and so did his opponent. So there's a chance there to maybe switch off because I don't think Bob and Rob had played each other.
I would have been.
I could have played
If
the
I
other
was a
person.
tournament organizer, I would have said, yeah, just swap with somebody.
Just
It's-
just swap.
And the last game, going to time and everything else was literally not on my shoulders. I think Rob kind of didn't play me aggressively enough in the second game.
He's a very defensive
He was
list.
just afraid to commit against Martyrs. I mean, Martyrs are front armor too. Yeah, okay, they hit hard, but he had Lee's, Stewart's. I mean, he outgunned me or outnumbered me at least for a couple of turns.
Yeah.
I mean, he really could have. I think he really could have won the game because once I either I guess mistakenly killed off my tiger. If I made that mistake, then that's really dumb of me. But anyway,
Can we just talk about the Martyrs for a second? Because are
Martyrs
they a
Martyrs are-
compulsory platoon? Because
may
they
as
might
well.
as well be.
So
yeah.
the Martyrs. So in my list, I had 3 units of scout cars. The headquarters, which is made up of 1 scout car. 3 units of 8 rads.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I had the 5-centimeter guns. That was like my core.
Pack 38.
And then my support. You're looking at the Martyrs and the Tiger.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Every German list I played, and I played 4 of them, had the Martyrs. and in every game they were the bane of my existence. I could not.
They're the best. They're excellent.
They're excellent.
They are with the new shoot and scoot, keeping your opponents outside 32 inches.
Yeah.
Or, most of the alley guns I went against only had a reach of like 24.
Mm-hmm.
So even my anti-tank guns, I think, are 28. Aren't they, Dan? 5 centimeters?
Yeah. And if you're defensive,
Yeah.
I'll put a platoon in ambush.
Yeah.
Why not the martyr?
Why not?
And I did things with these friggin' guns I would never do in
Version
version 3, buddy. They're moving. These guys are like moving all over the damn board. It's like, 3 up 6. I don't give a shit. They're not dug in. Whatever the gun shield's facing, you fire power it anyway. Like, I didn't care.
Yeah.
Like, it's just make a difference.
No, I'm gonna buy some martyrs. I'm gonna throw it on my grill, and I'm gonna watch them melt. I'm not even gonna assemble them. I hate them so much. They're my Gepard. They're my Gepard, man.
That's true. Yeah.
Hold on.
Hey everybody, this is Mitch. I'm going to fill you in on a couple of events that you should be going to. Let me tell you about the first one. On October 20th, No Dice, No Glory will be hosting a charity event in Fredericksburg, Virginia, to sponsor TAPS.org. It is an amazing charity I've been involved with for a few years. That is October 20th. Please hit our website for more details. Not too long after that, we're going to be having an event. Team Yankee. This time it's called Fall Offensive. It is 3 November, and that will be at the Games Tavern in Chantilly. Please go to thegamestavern.com for more details and to sign up. Sign-ups will be taken through the site. And, of course, the big site that we've put on our site is the November 9th and 10th, the Ironman, which is one day of Team Yankee on the 9th, and then 10 November, Flames of War. We have a full written article on it on our site. Please go check it out, and we hope to see you at one of these events. Once again, you can reach us through the website or at ndngtournaments@gmail.com, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the table.
All right, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys, I don't know if you guys are you guys Pacino fans.
A little bit.
A little bit. You've seen Heat, right?
Obviously.
I have not seen Heat.
Oh my god.
I'm a disgrace to America. I understand that.
Yeah.
So he's not going to get, and I'm going to just take a wild guess. It's the, she's got a great ass.
I am not. No, I'm not gonna. I'm not.
No?
But I will play something else. Something else a lot more fun. And it's the last time I'll talk about opponents being late again.
I think we can play that.
That's pretty much it.
I think we just went to iTunes is gonna
commercial or whatever.
iTunes is gonna nail us.
Yeah,
Oh,
we'll get a big flat friggin'. So I'll just do that. Just if you're playing events, guys, just be cordial. Don't forget that there's another person waiting for you to play.
They're university age kids. They don't give a rat's.
They don't care.
So
It's a miracle they woke up.
Yeah, exactly, and made it at all. But just keep that in mind for your next big tournament. So to close out my 6 games, was happy to get the 2 wins on Sunday, and came away with a few more points. So it's kind of nice. I think as far as the event was concerned, the organization was really well done.
Yeah.
Hats off to Louis, basically running it solo. I mean, really.
On Donna and
Donna was helping him out, but yeah.
Yeah, Donna's a big help, and the fact that the showing up this year, we had my expectations were as far as the terrain and stuff were concerned. My expectations are actually low. I don't set the bar very high, only because in past years, other than the tables that guys have brought in to set up themselves, the terrain's been pretty sparse. But this year,
that was very good.
Awesome.
It was very good.
This year was definitely the best. They didn't bring the plywood boards. They brought
the tables were really well balanced. Kudos to Battlefront for getting Louis those the gamer mats, the double-sided ones. They're
for sure.
Really nice quality. You should definitely buy one if you haven't already.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a cigar mat here at home, but I would definitely consider one of those for another table for sure. And I've got 2 table services, so I think I might end up getting one of those eventually. And
I'm
it's
going to
be
bring up
good.
a tables worth of terrain next year because I didn't realize there was a fun
really?
competition.
No,
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was a lot of fun. How'd you guys find the tables that you played on? Did you enjoy them all, or was there some you could have done without?
The prison one was kind of eh. I call it the prison. It wasn't supposed to be an airfield, but it actually looked like a prison.
Right.
And that's where I played your late opponent, Matt. And he was actually the highest ranked Canadian player at last year's Canadian National. So he's a good player. And I was able to pull out all the stops and basically just stop him from contesting me because of the prison walls.
Okay.
That's the only table that I thought, that's fine, have walls around this giant thing, but on certain missions, like counterattack, which is what I was playing, it's like, how are my wheeled vehicles going to cross that? You know what I mean, like,
Yeah, with difficulty.
yeah, it's like hard no. So I had to do some judicious spearheading onto the correct side of the wall.
Got to do the whole like the Jiffy Jeep thing, like they do in
yeah,
exactly. Take it apart and friggin' get it across the wall by.
But apart from that, like the tables were all good. I didn't have to play. Oh, there was one. There's these 4 massive row houses that they put literally in a row on one table, and then there's 3 gaps in the middle. And then what's the mission where you get 3 minefields? Well, guess where the 3 minefields were?
Mm-hmm.
In the gaps. So the guy's like, well, this sucks. He had no infantry. It's like, it was just like the perfect storm of,
That's the one part I don't
mission,
the
and then
don't
you're
like
like the table. You're like, oh.
So the minefields, the 25 points for each per 25 points gets you a minefield in if you're the defender.
But that's rounded down too, so you get the 3rd one for free.
Right,
Yeah.
because it says or part thereof.
Or part thereof.
So 71
So you get 3.
it climbs to 3. So anything above 50 points, I suppose, you'd get 3.
Yeah.
So thankfully it wasn't 4. I want to say the second mission of day 2.
Bridgehead.
Is that the box one? It's
Yeah.
on the back. Okay.
Yeah.
So, So my table, unfortunately for me, and I'm actually glad I played Bob McBride because he could talk me down off a ledge. I don't usually play with emotion if it's somebody I don't know. But Bob and I have played a lot of games together over the years, and we've each had good and bad games, and we're able to to run away with it. And we kind of calm each other down, and it's always we're always victims of circumstance, it seems. So that game, Bob's area that he chose had a street running down the middle and then a building on each side, enough for him to get hide his infantry out in, and right on top of basically both objectives, because I couldn't move them away from the buildings far enough to get them.
Well,
away
because the
from
box to
trenches.
put your objectives is so tiny in that one.
Super
It's like,
small.
well, here's where they go. There's no
So
choice.
learning the hard way that you can't go into buildings anymore and friggin' killing guys,
tanks.
like it's just like, I set all my guys up. I had my anti-tank guns on a hill, and I was literally just shooting every single turn, getting hits. But he's passing saves, and I think I maybe only got, killed like 3 stands in like 2 hours. Like it was just horrible. So he actually felt for me that game. He's like, totally in a rough position. You couldn't do much. Reserves started showing up is the big thing, right? Like you always want to get those games in quickly, especially with the armored cars. I was in people's deployment areas like within a couple turns because of the speed.
Oh yeah.
Because of the terrain interaction. There's so many boards that had roads on them. It's like, I'll take my 40 inches, boom. You know what I mean? So I was using them just as a diversionary tactic in some of my games. Just drive up. It's like, yeah, okay, you're hitting me on 4s. What do I care? You're only gonna get so you're only gonna get 3 shots or whatever.
If you're behind cover, it's shooting scoop or scouts. So you get on the ground.
I'll take the math, right? So, so it's like, okay, well, I only lost 1 armored car out of 3 against tanks. That's pretty good. You're not shooting at something else. So that part of it was pretty good. I don't know. What about you, Tom? What one game on one board did you maybe not have as good of a time as others?
Because of the terrain?
Yeah, well, mix of the terrain, the mission, and kind of like the board. Yeah.
I guess like the second game I had on day 1 was just I was playing against Dean Marquis,
Yes.
and he got to defend. He had the martyrs behind a hill. I loaded everything I had on the right side.
Martyrs.
And of course, there's martyrs, yeah. So the martyrs are down below the hill. They're waiting for their turn.
It's Stux too, I think, right? He took Iron Cross.
Yes, he did. I don't think he had Stooks. Did he have Stooks?
Him and I were talking back and forth on Facebook.
He had a platoon of Panzer IVs that could bombard, but they never did it. They just mostly machine gun. But because of where the woods were, he could set up like his minefields, which blocked off one of the main lanes, and there's a hill. It was perfectly placed just to help him do what he needed to do. So I threw every tank I had. I dashed it up. I kept him behind the hill. He stormtroopered to the top of the hill. He blew away like half my platoons. Then he blitzed back down.
Of course.
Then I zipped up, took 8 shots at him, missed all of them. Then his Panzer Force came on from reserve on turn 1. And then they smoked the rest. So it was one of those like, well, maybe it'll work out if his reserves don't come on turn 1. They do. Maybe this will work out if I can assault across a hill. No, it's not. It's not going to work out that great. But yeah, it was like he played it the way he was supposed to play it. I wasn't upset about it. It's just depressing as hell. But I think that the desert games I played, the terrain was a little sparse. I would like to see like a palm grove or something that break up the middle, because there's 2 of the boards I played on where you could shoot straight across that sucker in every direction. So in one of them I played against Jason's Crusaders, and we had clean shots pretty much at everybody. There were some hills, and the hills looked good. You know, they were like the ones that people cut and made themselves. I thought those were cool. But there wasn't enough like forestation or vegetation anywhere on the table to kind of break it up. But I'm an infantry player for the most part. It's rare that I take tanks unless it's like a 1 platoon support. And this didn't really dissuade me from that. I know Chris Johnson will make fun of me and say that I'm just weak and that I should just take tanks. But I'm better with infantry, because with the tank, and you can make fun of me for this terrible logic, right? If I screw up 1 dice roll, the tank's dead, right? But if I screw up a couple of infantry saves, oh well, it's more infantry stands. No problem. I can roll 3+ saves like it's my job. So that's one of the reasons that I love playing that British Airborne list in late war. But Chris helped me make a better list. So I think I'm going to do a tournament on the 22nd down here in the States over at Kirwan's game store in Catskill. And it's a 100-point mid-war. And just to give him a plug, because Troy Baker's awesome, he's doing one at Toy Wiz the following weekend. But in the proud tradition of me and Troy's interactions with each other, I always seem to have some weird obligation any day he schedules a tournament. So it's not like so in this case, for the first time in 15 years, I have jury duty. And correct, I have jury duty on Friday, and then his tournament's the next day. And if past precedent is any indication, I'm going to get picked for jury duty. I'm going to tell you why, okay? I'm a social studies teacher, so I know just enough about civics to feel that I have a responsibility.
Oh, man.
But I'm not quite smart enough to be a lawyer, or at least they think I'm stupid. So they'll pick me. And it doesn't matter.
You can do the whole, no, this whole court is out of order.
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
Then you get kicked out, and then you can go to the tournament.
Or I can randomly just scream, "You can't handle the truth." That's another one.
There you go. Or instantly they'll kick you off that jury, and then you can go to the tournament.
I'll fall asleep. I'll wake up. Guys, guilty. It's guilty. And I'll just he did it. It's what? Where am I? What's happening? Am I in Connecticut? So but Troy's doing the same thing as mid-war. It's a Toy Wiz in Nanuet. So if you can send him an email, that's advertised on Battlefront's page, and they run a good tournament. They have a really nice space. So anybody who's in the tri-state area who wants to go, I want to give them a plug and make sure they get a shot. But
they should put that on the events area of the forum.
I think I'll do that.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say, like, if we want to close with just general takeaways about the meta, because Mitch said that we had to do that.
It's in our contract.
It's in our contract to talk about that. No, Mitch is probably gonna slap me the next time he sees me. But I think the Soviet lists that I saw all played well. So I think that Enemy at the Gates is looking pretty competitive. Looks like it's going to be great. I think the British get beat to hell on low points.
Surprise.
I think once it gets up to 100 points, they'll have a better shot at it. I saw, and just to mention something quick. So Louis had a raffle, which is a cool thing. So I was like, I'm gonna win something, and I put in like, you know, 40 Canadian dollars worth of tickets, and then Scott Roche proceeds to win like three different things, and he had that grin on his face, that shit-eating grin. I love that man. I love him so much. So I won the Shermans. No, I won the walls, and you came up to me and you're like, "Do you want these Shermans? Because nobody wants Shermans." And I'm like, "I hate myself."
That's not what I said.
No.
I said I already have 6 Shermans, and I don't need more Desert Shermans.
I'm just reimagining the conversation with my internal monologue. So when you said, "Do you want these Shermans? I don't need them," I said to myself, "I hate myself, so I'm going to take these." And I traded you for the walls. So I think the Italians were really better than I gave them credit for. And also, one of the funny things that I have to mention. So my friend Rob, who came up with this, won Best Sportsman. And I think partially that has to do with the fact that he was one of 2 unlucky people who played the card against him. Was it Andrew Bucknan, who had the captured tank card?
Is this the flamethrower story?
This is okay. Yeah. So Rob had flamethrower KVs. Andrew captured it, drove it across the table, burned away half of Rob's platoons, and won the game. It was hilarious, and he did it to somebody else too. He took over like a Panzer IV, and he's right.
The guy it was a Panzer IV long.
It was a long,
melted face with his.
It's great, good for him. But I think that the new books are a lot of fun. Was basically my takeaway. I think
I didn't see one Churchill actually. Now that I think about it, not one Churchill.
No,
not one.
No, I
Too
didn't.
expensive. 11 points.
I've run them in an infantry formation where I take 2.
Yeah.
But they usually were stuck in reserve the whole time. They're a lot like Maddie's Tiger, except less useful because they're so slow. It takes long to get across the table.
And speaking of which, and the whole know your effing army type thing, I'm just looking at the beautifully pictured Tiger card, heavy tank platoon. It's hit on a 4, but it's got a front armor of 9, a side and rear of 8, and it does indeed have a top armor of 2.
It's always had a top armor of 2. I don't know how this is.
I was thinking. I think what I was thinking when Rob was talking about bombardment, because I've used 25 pounders like a lot in my friggin' Australian list.
Version 3 there at 18.
Right. Yeah. Right, and I think that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
When I said, but that's fine.
We put a little extra pep in this one.
It's all good. I mean,
Histo Dad gets away with one.
Yeah, Histo Dad gets away with one, and I couldn't give the game away, so beat him twice. So what are you gonna do? Tiger or no Tiger?
Lord Almighty!
Come away with the W. That's all I need. I've really got nothing else as far as Canadian nationals. I think I mentioned everything.
Come next year, guys. Early war. It's gonna be awesome.
I'm excited. Dicker Max will be on the table again. That is a guarantee.
Yeah. Rumor has it somebody sometimes buys dinner too. Maybe.
Maybe sometimes.
Don't say who. Don't say who.
I'm not gonna say anything.
Dicker Max got 7 armor kills in one game last 2 years ago.
Mother of God, you monster!
Dicker Max just like
So he's got the victory rings painted, or the kill rings painted on the barrel, and
there you go.
And honestly, Tom, that was more of a disdain thing than anything else. Not taking a serious list, because in the mid-war, when Battlefront released, the mid-war monsters were allowed in tournaments, but it was up to the tournament.
Yes, I remember.
Yes, so they decided no. So I waited till the early war came out. Therefore, I took the Dicker Max, which is a mid-war monster in early war.
It's legal though.
Just for spite, but he actually performed really, really well. So I will have him on the table next year.
Holy cow!
He'll be just as scary as a tiger to some people. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Well, I can't recommend it more highly to people to come up.
Yes, for sure.
They have it's a great space, great hotel, and great people. So I had a great time. Thanks for hosting me, and we'll see you next time from No Dice, No Glory.
Thanks so much for joining the show tonight. Remember to follow us on Twitter at No Dice, No Glory, and keep the conversation going on NoDiceNoGlory.com, now featuring our own message boards. Have a great night, everybody.